So I, 27 female, have an older sister, 31 female, who I haven't been in touch with for the past 7 years. We didn't have a fallout or fight. We weren't in touch because she just disappeared one day. 7 years ago, my sister dumped her twin toddlers at my place and told me that she'd be back at the end of the day after running some errands. Her kids were 1.5 years old at the time, and I agreed to watch over them for a while because it wasn't uncommon for my sister to ask me to babysit her kids if I was at home and she had work to do, or if I was unavailable. Our parents had passed away when we were both young, like when we were 10 or something, and we'd been brought up by our maternal aunt, 47 female. I believe that when my aunt brought the kids to my place, she couldn't take them because she was sick. At that time, I was almost done with college and living with my friends in an apartment. They were out celebrating, so I stayed back. I took care of the kids for a while, but after 9 o'clock, I got worried because my sister was very late. I tried calling her many times, but the calls didn't work, and she didn't reply to my texts. I waited a bit more, then asked my aunt for help. She tried calling my sister too, but her calls couldn't get through either. I checked my sister's social media, but it was all turned off, so I couldn't contact her there either. My friends came back around 11 at night and also tried calling her, but no luck. In the end, I had to accept that maybe my sister didn't plan on coming back that day, but that one day turned into a week, then a month, a year, and finally, 6 whole years. My aunt and I reported her missing 24 hours after we couldn't find her. We didn't want to think she did this on purpose and didn't want to return. It sucked. But a few months later, I did come to terms with it. My sister and I weren't particularly close growing up since she was different from me, but I still loved her like family does. She turned into a bit of a party animal in high school and decided not to attend college. Instead, she moved in with her high school boyfriend in a small apartment at 19 and got a job instead, which is okay, but they'd waste a lot of their income unnecessarily and had no sense of responsibility. Most of it would go into drinks at clubs, clothes and makeup, and her boyfriend's sneaker collection. So she'd ask my aunt for rent much too often for her liking. And that increased when she got knocked up and had to go to the doctors frequently. Fortunately, my aunt could afford it since she ran a successful business and had never had any husband or kids of her own. We were all the family she had, so she did it without complaint. But I could tell that she wasn't pleased with my sister's lifestyle because she'd look very disappointed whenever my sister would come around asking for money. So I made up my mind to work harder to not let her down. Of course, eventually my sister disappeared along with her boyfriend, and none of their friends knew where they'd gone either. So we just had to make our peace with the fact that they probably wouldn't come back for a long time. Or maybe ever. I didn't know whether she was even alive up until last week. 6 years have passed, and now I'm an investment banker and I'm living with my aunt in my childhood home. My aunt and I had repurchased the house I grew up in with my parents recently and have been living here ever since. My aunt and I had pretty much accepted that my sister wasn't going to come back, but then she made a sudden reappearance last week and took us both by surprise. She'd been back for 3 weeks and had asked a few of her old friends to help her find us, and she finally had. She seemed happy to see us at first, but my aunt and I had mixed feelings. You don't just disappear for 6 years without warning, then come back and expect everything to be just the same. We tried to be polite and civil to her, but the conversation was strained at best. We didn't ask her where she'd been because honestly, it didn't feel like there was a point, and she didn't offer to explain herself either. After some time, she asked about her kids and wanted to see them again. But her kids didn't live with us. My aunt and I took care of them for almost a month after she disappeared. I was a college student, and my aunt worked, so we couldn't manage to care for them full time. We were old enough to take care of ourselves, but the kids needed constant attention. I had to study, and my aunt couldn't manage both work and kids. So, after nearly a month, we had to make a tough choice to let another family adopt them. Since they were technically abandoned, they were free to be adopted. After a long process, a kind couple named Adam and Martha adopted them. We still keep in touch and visit the kids. I didn't tell my sister everything because I knew it would upset her, and I didn't want her to bother Adam, Martha, or the kids. I just told her we had to give them up for adoption when she left them with me, without sharing the rest. When I told her, she thought I was joking at first, but my aunt and I were serious. It wasn't a funny situation. Eventually, she realized we were telling the truth and got very upset with us. She was just hysterical. She began to scream at us, told us that we were cruel and heartless monsters and whatnot, and then started sobbing violently. My aunt and I let her throw a tantrum, but after she seemed to calm down a bit, I asked her to leave since we had nothing to talk about anymore. She did leave, but she was still crying, and it was really disturbing to see her that way because she wasn't a very emotional or expressive person. So for her to completely break down in front of us was a pretty big deal. My aunt and I didn't know how to react to this, and decided that we just weren't going to talk about it at all. It was draining enough that my sister had shown up after so long and had expected things to have remained the same after 6 long years, and then screamed at us for doing what anyone else in their sane minds would have done. Neither of us wanted to discuss it even more and just make it worse for us. So we didn't talk about it and pretended it never happened. But yesterday I received an email from my sister and she said a lot of things that I feel like I have to talk about. My aunt has a lot to deal with because her business is doing exceedingly well and I don't want to disturb her or ruin her vibe right now by bringing this crap up.